気分は最高だけどびっくり世界がどんどん
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 33 of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Denji Sentai Megaranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listener. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty well. Had a very nice day today.
Nice. I did too. The sun was shining. I guess we'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, man.
But you know what else is shining, Dave? In the heavens. It's 5 stars. Our officially award-winning opening segment, which we will do before we're talking about today's episode, which is, of course, episode 33 of Denji Sentai Megaranger, Giddy, the Girlfriend from the Moon, which is both a true and misleading title in a fun way. But Dave, 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
Matt, our first star of the week is maybe the best star. It's Soul, our own sun.
Yeah.
And it was out, and I saw it in Cleveland. And it was like 52 or 53 degrees out, and I just went out, and the kids were playing outside, and it had been like pretty sunny, and then the clouds broke, Matt, and there was just pure sunshine, and I was outside, and it wasn't freezing cold, and I took my coat off. I just stood there and sweated, like in the sun. Sorry, so our parents lived in Sweden for a number of years, and when the sun finally comes out in Sweden, what you will see people do is just standing out they'll like cross the street and just stand out in the sun with their face up and their eyes closed, like looking directly at it, just to like physically and like I don't know,
soak
like
in
mentally,
as much as possible.
Yeah, just like get it like directly into your body as much as you possibly can. I was like 30 seconds away from taking my shirt off. I didn't do that, but I almost did.
Dude, I get it. It was great. Like, man,
yeah.
This time of year, late February, is like my least favorite time of year because it is the time where like,
what's the worst bit?
It feels like winter has been going forever, and you know that like it's coming to a close soon, but it's not coming to a close right now. And we'll get these, like the week before this we talked about it last week. It was just like, terrible weather all over the country.
And it's going to get cold again. I mean, this is...
Yeah, so like it got very cold, and we'll have these patches of like, yes, like now it's only a few weeks until daylight savings time. It's all like we're almost through
that's
it.
Right.
And then it's just going to I know it's going to drop back down to the
time?
teens soon.
No, it's not supposed to drop below like high mid 30s till at least next Tuesday.
I would love that, but I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah. So March 14th. So it's only like 2 weeks, Matt.
Yeah,
it's
man.
only like 2 weeks until daylight's. Oh, I love daylight savings time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
I don't like the time change. I want to always live in daylight savings time. I want to abandon non-daylight savings time and only live in the version that has more sunshine later in the day.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. No question. Absolutely. That is when I want it. Without question. So it's liar spring right now, but it will be real spring soon.
Anyway, Dave, what is our second star of the week?
So our second star of the week, Matt. Sorry, I was just sort of like mentally living in that sunshine on my face for a minute. Our second star of the week, Matt, as it so often is, it's Bunvulcan. Welcome to Bunvulcan.
So what do you got for us this week, Dave?
So, Matt, this week, I didn't actually bake a new thing, but I made a new frosting. So I had been just making like American style. Yeah, I had been making American style buttercream. But the thing is American style buttercream, it relies on like a ton of powdered sugar for its like structure. It has two ingredients, like butter and powdered sugar, and like a little bit of cream. And That's fine, except I'm
I would
trying
hope
to
so.
do, Beth and I kind of do this sort of, it's delicious, but Beth and I kind of try to do this like low carb thing, which is fine, and it's healthier overall. And so, I'm doing like low carb baking now. I'm trying to, like when I first started baking, I was like, listen, I'm just going to kind of do this stuff until I get a little bit of a handle on it, and then I'll try and branch out and do some low carb stuff. So that's kind of where I've been recently.
Okay,
And
like figure out the basics and
can't-
then figure out the very end.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to, like, dive in on some weird stuff. Like, let me figure out exactly the basics. And so I was, like, trying to figure out a way to do buttercream, and I was like, it's just is not going to work, because you can use artificial sweeteners, but they don't taste exactly like sugar. And if you're eating them in the quantities that you would need to create buttercream, like, they just start to taste very weird. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So so there's a great cooking blog called All Day I Dream About Food, and she's like, oh, the answer is you make Swiss buttercream. And I was like, I've never made Swiss buttercream before. So basically what you do is you get your egg whites really warm, like just under coagulating, so like 150 degrees, and I think they coagulate at like 162 or something like that. And you mix your sugar in with that, and you heat it to 150 degrees, and then you whip it up into a meringue, and then you throw softened butter into that, like once the meringue is already whipped.
Okay.
And the warmth from the meringue melts the butter and incorporates and aerates. So it doesn't end up as fluffy as a meringue. Like, you're losing volume because you're introducing fat, and that's a thing that happens. But it ends up like fluffy and super smooth and delicious. And I realized something, which is, if you've ever watched like cake decorating videos, like pro cake decorators, and they just sort of like spin the cake around and like very gently touch it with like a spatula, and it becomes like super smooth, and it looks like soft and and I was like, what am I doing wrong with my buttercream? Why can't I get that? The answer is, they're using Swiss buttercream. Like, they're not using American buttercream. American buttercream is super dense comparatively. So anyways, I made this Swiss buttercream, and it worked out super well. It got a little bit grainy, but that's because I let my butter was too cold. So I just warmed it up and re-whipped it, and it turned out perfect.
Oh, nice.
I made an orange pound cake. Yeah, I made an orange pound cake, and then I made like orange frosting to go with it. It was delicious.
Sounds great. I made more bread.
Yeah, man.
That's
nice. Oh, yeah, I saw in the family chat you sent out another loaf. It looked great.
Yeah, I am now... I feel like last week I was talking about how I was really trying to really get like a firm grasp on the sort of bread that Dutch oven loaf that I was making. And I did three good ones in a row in the course of about a week. And I'm like, okay, like I feel like now I feel solid about this. So I actually have some more dough
Nice.
in the kitchen right now that I'll be baking up tomorrow.
Nicely done, Matt. What is our third star of the week?
So third star of the week, Dave, is I have been revisiting some old Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I mean, okay, none of them... okay, actually, some of them are old. There's 20
I was going to
of them.
say, dude, Iron Man...
2008, I think? Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, I'm not going back that far. So the thing is, I have on this show recommended in the past a different podcast called Blank Check, right?
2008.
Yeah, podcast about filmographies. But they also have these side...
Oh, yeah. You've mentioned that.
So they've got these side projects that they do where they'll pick like a long series of movies and do like a watch-along commentary track thing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I like the idea of that, but I feel like if I watch a movie with like a commentary track in my headphones while I'm watching a movie on the TV, and it's a movie I really love, then I'm going to like not be paying attention to the podcast. And like, I'm just like, the one thing is just going to distract the other. So I thought to myself, why don't I instead watch a movie I only kind of like, and then I'll be able to like focus on the podcast and like get that sort of full experience, if that makes any sense.
Dig it. Totally makes
sense. So I'm like,
sense.
well, which of the Marvel movies is something that like I enjoy, but like it's whatever. And so, of course, do you want to guess?
Okay, it could be Iron Man 2. It could be Thor 2.
It was Thor 2. I started with Thor 2.
I was going to say, those are really the only ones in my mind that are like, Iron Man 3 is like a B+. Iron Man 2 is like a B minus. And I should say, again, please don't like question my fanboy creds. These are B minuses within the context of the MCU.
Okay, so this is actually my larger point. Like, what I want to say is, like, so far I have watched... I've been watching... Let's see, I started with Thor the Dark World, and I've sort of been going chronologically through. So, Thor 2 the Dark World, Captain America 2 Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. Avengers 2 Thor 2 and Avengers 2 are the two movies I think of in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that are like, yeah, I guess you kind of have to watch those ones because important stuff happens, but like they're the most like disposable whatever, you know. And I hadn't really seen either of them since they were in the theaters. And you know, at this point that's been a few years. So I sit down to watch these movies. I'm like, oh right. These aren't bad movies. They're actually pretty good movies. There's good stuff in all of them. It's just that when you think of Thor 2, The Dark World, as being the worst Marvel movie, like, when you think the word worst, your brain sort of correlates that with bad. But it's not a bad movie. It's the worst of a bunch of good movies. It's like, okay, Die Another Day is the worst James Bond movie, and Die Another Day sucks. Die Another Day is a terrible movie, and it's the worst James Bond movie. Thor 2, I'm not sure that Thor 2 actually is the worst Marvel movie. I'd have to do like a full rewatch to like weigh in on that. But even if it was the worst Marvel movie, that doesn't mean that it's not a good movie. Like, there's a lot, like, all the stuff with Loki in that movie is really good. The stuff where the Warriors 3 and Loki and Thor and Sif are like basically the A-Team escaping from Asgard.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
that stuff
I forgot
rules.
about that bit. That's a great bit. Yeah, you know, this is something
Heimdall's like Heimdall's in that movie and does cool stuff.
Wow, I mean, it's Idris Elba, right? Like,
yeah, and like, you know, Anthony Hopkins doesn't have a lot to do in that movie, and you know, he's kind of...
But he's in it.
He does, like, Anthony Hopkins doesn't have to put in a lot of work to have like a decent impact, but like, boy, like when he's on the throne yelling at Loki about like how his birthright was to die, like, it's good stuff.
Oh man, it is. It's
movie.
Really good stuff. You know, one of the things that it's sort of in a weird way snuck up on me almost is we were watching the most recent episode of WandaVision this last weekend, and you know that the opening scroll of Marvel stuff, and it's all like clips from past MCU projects. And at this point, there's a lot of clips, like a lot. There is a lot of movie in these movies. And I was like, man, it kind of snuck up on me. This is now a full, like, they've always called it the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in a sneaky sort of way, it really does. It feels so fleshed out at this point. Like, there's just so much there. And one of the things that I think is coolest about it, or that I kind of dig about it the most, is as a kind of long-term comics guy, this is one of the coolest things about Marvel Comics. And now, even if you've never read the comics, you are getting to experience that same feeling, that same sort of thing through the medium of the movies, you know, and it's really cool because I get to share it with Beth because she loves all the movies and TV shows. She's just not really a comic book person, like just the format. She doesn't dig it. But now it's this really cool thing, and it's just awesome. Yeah,
I mean, you know what's wild? It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has outlasted the New 52. Like, the New 52 version of the DC Universe, like, in the comics, like, came and went, like during the time of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, obviously, there were a lot of comics in those years, and there have only been, 20 movies and a few TV shows in the course of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, like, comparatively,
20 movies.
It's a lot. I'm not saying it's not a lot. I'm just,
it's a lot of movies.
I'm just, I didn't want to downplay the amount of stuff that was in the New 52. I'm just saying, like,
No.
if you look at a calendar, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's wild. No,
I
it's
mean,
cool.
also, DC reboots their universe. I just think every day, like, the head editor goes in and, like, flips a coin as to whether they're going to reboot it today or not.
Head editor Harvey Dent. Anyway, yeah, the MCU is fun. I think a lot of people are re-watching some of it right now because, like, now that WandaVision's out, we're like, oh right, yes, this thing that we liked exists, and we are already subscribed to Disney Plus, so we can just watch all of these movies anytime
we can just
want.
go back and watch it now. Yeah.
Anyway, Dave, what is our 4th star of the week?
So our 4th star of the week is like a low-key commercial. It's just some like really, really cool Kickstarter projects that are out there that we're either backing or just like, I kind of want to back, but like I can't back everything. And the first, like, they have no fear. Like, this thing is like way past its stretch goals. They've raised like $500,000 so far. But if you want to get in early access, it's called Dungeon Alchemist. And this is a D&D thing. And here's what it is.
Now, when you say it's a D&D thing, is it like a... No, I mean, it's kickstarting, so this is not like a Wizards of the Coast D&D
yeah,
thing.
Sorry. What I should have said is it is a tabletop role-playing oriented thing. It is not specifically Dungeons & Dragons. But Dungeons & Dragons is, a lot of people play it with a map where, most people aren't playing like Mage with a map or something. Anyways, here's what Dungeon Alchemist does, is it has like, as they're programming it, it's got like 15 themes, right? So like Wizard's Lair or Pirate Cove or Dungeon or Town or whatever, right? And you just open up a blank thing and you just draw a square or a triangle or whatever shape you want. And you say, this is a bedroom. And it just goes like, do. And it just fills it in with a bunch of bedroom stuff.
Ooh.
Or you say like, or you say like, this is a tavern. It's like, okay. And it just creates a tavern like procedurally out of like, given like the size that you want it to be and all of this stuff. And then you can either, it's all 3D, so you can either use it on like a virtual tabletop or you can turn it flat and just make it top down and print them out. It just looks incredibly cool. Again, the project is called Dungeon Alchemist. I am very seriously considering getting in on it. The only reason I'm not is that I'm not actively involved in a Dungeons and Dragons game like right at this minute. Mm-hmm. But I do plan on playing more Dungeons and Dragons in the future, and so I probably have to get this very cool thing.
I mean,
so
it would almost be irresponsible not to.
It would almost, Matt, you're such a wise person. And then there was another project, Matt, that we were going to talk about, but I'll let you lean in on this one, even though we're both very excited about it.
Yeah, there's actually 2 others that I just saw today that I'm like, oh man, do I spend all of my money on this? And the answer is no, because I'm renovating a house, but I can spend some of my money on at least one of them. And one of them is, we've talked a lot about the tabletop game Mage on this podcast, and there is
Can you ever talk about it too much, Matt?
I don't think I said too much, Dave. I think I just said a lot. Anyway, it's just the same game, but set in a different time period. It's set in the Victorian era, which I don't think there was the Sorcerer's Crusade in the old editions, but I don't think that was specifically Victorian. It's been a while since I've read the Sorcerer's Crusade books.
No, that was like Elizabethan up through like early Georgian.
Okay.
I think was kind of the vibe there. And there had been talk a lot. You know what, Matt? There was some Victorian stuff, but in like first edition.
Oh, all right.
I want to say. So there is some Victorian mage stuff like way back in like the publishing history, but nothing for like 15 or 16 or maybe 20 years. So yeah, it's no new rules, but it's just a bunch of cool setting stuff and background stuff. And it does look very, very cool. I probably will not get that one though, but it does look extraordinary. I don't know, man. I might, as I'm thinking about it, I might at least get the PDF.
The thing that's really like the other project that I was looking at the other day that was like, man, I really, really want this, but like, when am I ever going to get a chance to play it? Is yet another expansion to the board game Root, which is this really fun, like asynchronous, like strategy game. It's not exactly like a battle strategy game because it's so asynchronous that some of the factions like do not thrive in combat.
Right.
But it's like, it's this big game that takes like a while to play, and I live alone and in a pandemic, and I don't get a chance to play board games with people like around a table anymore. I mean, theoretically, eventually I'll be able to do that again. But Dave, one of the factions is just like this angry mob, and the name of the faction is.
Well, that's not a great start, Matt.
Well, the name of the faction is Lord of the Hundreds. And it's just like you control this, and the game is very cute. Like it's like little like fantasy animals in like a woodland kingdom, and these are just like these little red mice running around with like fire, just laying waste to the world around them.
Okay, so again, that's a little close to home, a little bit soon root. I would say, dude, because they have to have been developing this for a long time, that like on January the 6th, the developers are like, oh no, oh man. I mean, we all were, but they were like, in general, but also like for very specific reasons for us right now. Oh no, man.
I'm just excited to see how it would play out in the game. The asynchronous strategies in the game, Dave, they're very compelling. Very compelling stuff. Dave, what is our...
Oh, man, I'm compelled by asynchronous strategy. But Matt, what is our 5th star of the week?
Dave, our 5th star of the week is a house update.
Nice.
Yeah. So I, as listeners to the show know, I bought a house. The house is old and in need of major renovations, and so I haven't moved in yet. And so I've been sort of working steadily to get it sort of habitable so I can move in. And the project is coming along, and it's very cool. What the big update this week is that I have finally sort of worked out with the bank a way to get a loan based on the value of the house that I can sort of use that money to fund the repairs, and then once that's all done, I'll sort of refinance it and sort of have that be my mortgage and move on. Now, that's sort of the bullet point, so I don't sort of go into the weeds on talking about like home finance, which is something that I barely understand and is not entertaining. Here's the thing that may be entertaining, though, Dave, is that for some reason, like the way that I was sort of bounced around from banker to banker, like by the time I ended up like finding a person who I could talk to actually help me work this out, they were like, okay, like we will do all this stuff, and then at the end you will come into the branch of the bank and you will sign the paperwork. And on the day before I had to go into the bank, they were like, okay, here's the address. And I look it up, and it turns out that the bank I was going to was a branch of the bank that was in a local grocery store.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's not great.
Which is also like 20 minutes away from where I live. Like, I live like right up by Edgewater, and this is in Fairview Park at the Giant Eagle on Lorraine. And so I'm driving to this grocery store to go to the bank to sign important loan documents, which feels very surreal. And while I'm doing it, I'm just looking like at the buildings that I'm driving by, and I'm like, well, there's one branch of this bank, and I just passed like 5 different branches of the same bank, before, like full regular branches with cubicles and chairs, and that don't just have grocery carts like rattling around behind you while you're trying to sign your life away. And then I end up and it's just like sitting next to this, and the bank is right next to the front door. So I'm just sitting there like huddled in my coat as the front door keeps opening and people are coming in with their shopping carts, like signing these bank documents. It was a very surreal experience to like essentially buy a house at a grocery store. It was weird.
Yeah, that does feel pretty strange.
But that's it. That is the 5th star of the week.
But it's
Dave.
done now, Matt.
It is done. We are going to take a break. We are going to watch episode 33. Once again, it is called Giddy, the Girlfriend from the Moon. Written by Naruhisa Arakawa. Original air date October 5th, 1997. Of course, you can watch along with us either on the DVDs or at shoutfactorytv.com. And we will be right back. All right, welcome back. We're on the moon. It's great. There are new robots there. Dave, there's a lot of good stuff happening here in space. We got a moon base,
extremely good
right?
stuff. Extremely good stuff.
I will give you a list, Dave, of things in ascending importance of things that we find in space as we're sort of cutting around. There is a moon base. That's great. We see the picture of the new robots. That's cool.
Yep. I do get a giant kick out of the fact that Kenta's is just like an android.
Just a large man.
Like everybody else has vehicles, and he's just got like a robot man.
Shogo is there. He is up and about and healthy looking and working on repairing Galaxy Mega.
Love it.
Dr. Kubota is there, and he also seems to... I remember he had gotten slightly injured in the last episode. He looks fine now. And then finally, Dave, the most important thing that we find is that Tall Steve is back in this show.
He is. I was genuinely, man, kind of relieved to see him. Because I was
Me too.
This can't be the end of Tall Steve.
I was worried something had happened to him. Like all of the people in this base are at risk every time Galaxy Mega goes into combat. I thought that, I guess Tall Steve just, bit it at some point, halfway through the season.
Dude just ate it.
But
no, he's good, man. He's good. Thank goodness. So, Dr. Kubota's like, Shogo, when is, listen, thank goodness that, not Galaxy Mega, what's the new robot's name?
Mega Voyager.
Mega Voyager, thank you. It's like, thank goodness Mega Voyager was ready to go when it was, but when is Galaxy Mega going to be fixed? And Shogo's like, listen, we're working as fast as we can, but Galaxy Mega really took a beating. Tall Steve says something, and I haven't heard him say anything in a long time, and I think this might be the longest series of lines he's ever had. But they have to have overdubbed this guy. They did one of two things. They overdubbed Tall Steve with the Japanese person speaking English, or they said, Tall Steve, your American English is not... And our sister, who teaches overseas, teaches English to speakers of foreign language, has told us that this is true, that sometimes if you are a native English speaker and you are speaking to somebody who kind of speaks English, one of the best things you can do, and please, this might be a pro-level move. Do not try this in the wild, because what she has told us is that something that you can do to help comprehension is to speak English with the accent of the person that you are trying to speak to. So, if you were trying to speak to a Japanese person and their English wasn't great, it would be helpful for them if you spoke English with a Japanese accent. Again, I 100% do not recommend you do this in the wild. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a pro-level move for educational settings. I was going to say, otherwise it could get very bad very, very fast.
When you say a pro-level move, you mean specifically in a professional setting if you are trying to help a student understand something in a foreign language.
Yeah. I think this is a pretty reserved, this is a very niche move. Do not try this in real life. But Tall Steve 100% has a very thick Japanese accent when he's speaking English.
Yeah. But it warms my heart to see him. We might have had that.
It was
we
good.
might have had that. It's been so long since he's been in the show. It's possible that we had that exact same conversation last time he was here. I'm not going to go back and check, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, no, that certainly is not. Well, it's always a delight to see Tall Steve when he shows up. He's like a weird Sentai cryptid. Anyways, Kubota is concerned. He's like, listen, dude, this is like, we got to get on this. Like, again, we eked out a victory here, but like, you know, we would prefer to be further ahead of this than we are. So we flash down to Earth. Kenta's running for the train. He's like, oh my gosh, if I am late again, I'm going to get in trouble. And as he is, he's getting on the train, a young woman comes like chasing after him, and she's very cute. And she's like, Kenta. And Kenta's like, huh? Who is
girl
this?
Who knows my name? I'm immediately interested.
I don't know. Immediately interested. But the train dings and like the doors close, and he's like, no. There's like dawning horror on his face as
he's like
as the
trying
doors
to
are
pry
closing.
the doors open.
Yeah, and he needs gorilla arms, Matt, is what he needs. And so as the train is pulling away, he's staring forlornly at this young woman, and she is saying something to him. It is not clear what she's saying. We don't hear it. But when Kenta sees
but she
it,
is
he says,
chasing after the train and like banging on the window and calling his name. He can tell that much at least.
Right. And when Kenta looks at her, he's like, I love you? Is that what you're saying? Oh my gosh, this girl loves me? And then the train has pulled away.
So we cut to the Digital Research Club, and Kenta is just relaying all of this, and he's sort of like putting on a little like mime act and going through the motions. He's like, and then she was running at me like
good
this.
Job.
Yeah, and he like, and so you know he's just bragging about how he has a girlfriend. He just as soon as he can like get around to meeting her, he definitely has a girlfriend who loves him now.
For sure, yes. Nobody buys this. Least of all.
Yeah,
I think Chisato and Shun are the two like top tier disbelievers. Koichiro and Muku are like, that seems unlikely, but maybe. Chisato is like definitely not. And Shun is both, how to say, incredulous and also on some level somehow like offended, it seems.
Yeah, and I think the take here is that like Shun is like a handsome, charming guy that girls swoon over, and the very idea that girls would swoon over Kenta is like he's like no, like it's not jealousy. It's definitely not jealousy. It is taking offense at the idea that he and Kenta are on the same level.
Yes, that something that happens to him could possibly also happen to Kenta.
But as they are disbelieving, lo and behold, that young woman like pops up right behind Kenta and knocks on the door. It's like, hey, Kenta, I found you. Here, like I have come for you, and I've brought gifts.
Everybody loses it. Kenta loses it, maybe most of all, but everybody else like jaws on the floor, cannot believe that this is happening. It's a delay. I think everybody else can't believe it. Shun is, he's just confused. Like, he doesn't deny the evidence of his eyes, but it's very clear. It's as though he's watching magic. He's like, well, I definitely know what I just saw, but I have no idea how it possibly could have happened.
Maybe
like,
it's magnets.
Saw it. It must be magnets. I don't know. So her name is Megumi Takano, I think was her surname.
Yes.
Yep. And
she's
so
here from the moon.
Yep.
She's an INET programmer, we discover. And she has been like watching Kenta. She's like, oh man, I watch all of your fights. Like you've got some great moves. And Kenta's like, yes. She has watched all of my fights, and she has fallen in love with me. This is wonderful. This is like From Russia with Love, except that there's not going to be a twist later.
Right. This is the absolute best version of how I, Kenta, could ever get a girlfriend. Like, zero effort, and you like me because I'm like a dope video game fighter. So
Yeah.
and then she's mentioned specifically Battle Riser. She's like, the way you use Battle Riser is very excellent. And he's like, awesome. Love it. So we go from there to the Nezare dimension, where Dr. Hinelar is doing his best Phantom of the Opera impersonation, which is a fun twist we haven't seen that before.
Dr. Hinelar has a different energy in this episode than he has previously. Like, he got he has dealt with Gyrail, and now, like, this is the Dr. Hinelar show.
Yeah, he's definitely feeling. This is such a hard turn for him. It almost feels as though Dr. Hinelar, is the new mid-season villain.
Right, even though he's been the villain the whole time.
In theory, yeah, but like now all of a sudden, like, you know, in the 13th round, like out of the gate swinging, he's totally different. So he's jamming on this Phantom of the Opera thing, and he like hits a bunch of buttons. King Javius is on the televisor, and he's like, Hinelar, and he keeps calling him. And eventually Dr. Hinelar is like, yeah, dude, like, I heard you. I'm busy. Like, I'm doing a thing right now. And there's this bolt of lightning, and he says, I have created the best creature. Meet Psycho Lion Nezalar.
Yes. Now,
and when he says he has created the best creature, he is not far off. Psycho Lion Nezalar is sick as hell.
Dude, Psycho Lion Nezalar
amazing.
Looks so good. And what is interesting to me is, like, this is episode 33, right? Like, we are beyond the point where we should be having a mid-season pivot, but this is absolutely a mid-season pivot because we are introducing an upgraded version of the Monster of the Weeks, right? It's always been, you know, like, whatever Nezare monster, but this is not the same sort of thing. This isn't like the Psycho Nezalar beasts, I think, are just going to be like the new version, and I'm really curious if they all look this cool.
Man, I don't know, because, okay, so Psycho Lion Nezalar, so he is an animal, of course, but he looks a lot more robotic, I would say, than a lot of the previous, like, there's always been, like, a kind of a twisty, like, robot-ish sometimes, but also, like, very organic. Psycho Lion Nezalar does not look like that.
Yeah, he looks like a beautiful golden robot lion man.
Yeah, his vibe is very much like Mega Man X / Silverhawks, kind of.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyways, he looks amazing. Oh, I just noticed his giant mane is also like a drill thing. That's sick. It's like a twisty. Anyways, he's amazing looking. Look him up. So he's like, I've created the best new monster. This is Psycho Lion Nezalar. Here he goes. Also, and he's like, listen, I do not need anybody else to help me with this. Gyrail ultimately was pretty useless. I don't need any more help. Like, I will handle this. Like, don't worry about it. And Javius is like, all right, dude, like, okay, I'm going to remember what you said, but you go for it.
Yeah. Oh, and also, Ugande's back.
Oh, yeah. He rebuilt Ugande.
Yes. He has rebuilt Ugande. He is stronger than ever, and he has given him a new sword, and that new sword is called Dark Crisis, and it has 3 special moves.
That's a good name. That's a very good name for a sword. Now, its special moves are activated just by, like button pads on the hilt of the sword. Like, it's a video game thing, so it does make sense. It kind of looks a little dopey, but the rest of the sword looks sick. So we flash back down to Digital Research Club.
Yes.
And Megumi says, Kenta, I have a present for you. It's taken me 6 months to finish it. And she opens up this case that she has with her, and she starts pulling some stuff out. It's a picnic basket, yeah, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it, like some cookies and things. Again, nobody can believe that this is
I immediately
everybody's blown away.
Has she been making cookies for 6 months?
That was my thought as well.
Like, that would be a lot of cookies. That would be a lot of cookies. And also, cookies don't necessarily keep for 6 months.
Yeah, well, don't feel bad because Kenta thinks the exact same thing. He's just like, oh, cookies, those are great presents. Love it. And then there's like a Nezare call, and they dip out to fight.
Kenta is inconsolable that he's being torn away from his new lady love and cookies.
Yeah. He's like, listen,
Honestly,
this is going to take, I
even
think
on
he
that.
says, he's like, this is going to take me 5 minutes, babe. I will be right back. I'm super stoked about this present. You just hang tight.
So they're called away, and unfortunately, it is not just a bunch of, oh my gosh, I was about to say wumpers. It's not just a bunch of kune. It is Ugande, and it is Ugande plus featuring Dark Crisis.
Yeah. So it's got a Fireblade mode, which is very, very cool. And then it has like a shooty, like air cut blade mode. And that's good. And Dr. Hindelar did an amazing job. Ugande is absolutely wiping the floor with the Rangers. They like shoot him right in the face, like nothing happens. He tries to do riser chop, and Ugande just like grabs his fist out of midair and like throws him back over himself. So whatever Dr. Hindelar did, he really went all out. Ugande is doing a very, very good job.
Yeah, so in the meantime, Megumi is like going through her picnic basket back in the Digital Research Club and realizes that like she had tripped and I don't think we mentioned it, but we
didn't mention it. But
tripped and fallen over in the subway, which is why she missed the subway car. And when she did, her picnic basket like popped open, and she's like, "Oh crap! I must have dropped this thing that I'm looking for back there." So she runs over to the subway station, and she finds a floppy disk, like an iNet floppy disk, and she begins to move her way like towards the fight.
So while we're there, what we are also seeing is that Psycho Lion Nezare can teleport, and he's got like a rocket launcher sort of thing. Except it's not launching rockets. It's launching it seems to be launching teleport beacons effectively. And there's no explanation for exactly what he's doing, but he's like going around, and then he's like, one more, and then I'm done, right?
Yes.
So Megumi at this point arrives. She just like runs right up on Ugande, and I give her a lot of props for that. Great job, because she does not have superpowers. And then Ugande is just like Dark Lightning mode, and it's like a lightning blast, and Megumi and Mega Red fall into the water, and then the other Rangers also get blasted, and they fall into the water. Everybody's in the water.
It almost feels like an afterthought. Like Megumi and Kenta go into the water, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, the other four should probably also be in there so that we can sort of end this scene and move on." So they just like run up to immediately get blasted and thrown into the water.
Yeah. So they go there. Oh, so the next scene is Megumi, and she's in the hospital. The other Rangers were okay, I guess, because they're Rangers, but she just got blasted, and she's a human. So she's in the hospital, and Kenta feels super bad. He's like, I can't believe this, that my heart is broken. This all happened because you fell in love with me, and you came down to Earth to be with me. I'm going to save you. Like, I feel responsible for this. Had you not inevitably fallen in love with me,
I mean,
everything would have been okay.
I mean, how could that not have happened, really? I mean, look at me, but, you know, it is a shame.
And then he picks up the cookies, and he's like, I'm sorry. There's a quick bit where we see Dr. Kubota, and he's just like, hey guys, while you were fighting Ugande, there was like this whole other thing happening.
With this teleporting lion man, we're definitely going to have to deal with it.
Definitely have to deal with this.
Because they've realized that the places where the Psycho Lion, not Nezare, it's a Psycho Lion Nezalar. I'm definitely going to get that wrong a bunch. Psycho Lion Nezalar, the places where he has like dropped these, I don't know, teleport beacons that are also mines or bombs are all in like...
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's a dam. It's like a power plant. It's all of these places that if they were to all get blown up, it would just destroy all of Japan.
Well, specifically, there's one spot where he said, like, Chisato says, like, oh, those spots are all super important for, like, the city. But then there's also, it's called the Super Energy Lab. And Dr. Kubota says if that thing blows up, it will have the force of like 50 hydrogen bombs, and like not just Tokyo, all of Japan would go up.
Yeah, so like we need
that's
like
the specific.
Like just be there, because there's gonna be you're gonna have to fight someone, and you're gonna have to do it there. So just go there now, and we'll figure out what this all means.
Yeah. So then we go back to Kenta, and he's just like, I'll eat the cookies, and when I return, we'll go on a date.
Your cookies will give me strength.
Right. And so he dashes off. So the Rangers are all there together. And Psycho Lion Nezare kind of like taunts them. And they're like, well, you're just another Nezare beast. And he's like, no, let me explain the whole upgrade process. I am now Psycho Lion Nezalar. It's a fun little bit of exposition. And it's a quick Kune fight. And then we get clued into what Psycho Lion Nezare's plan is. And it's a very cool and I think totally unique plan. I don't think we've ever seen something like this before.
Not that I can recall, at least. So his plan is, he's like, okay, he kind of pulls a Clint Eastwood from A Fistful of Dollars, where he's like, if you're going to beat me, you've got to shoot me right here. And then Kent is like, okay, I'll shoot you right there. And he does shoot him right there. Now, the thing is, in A Fistful of Dollars, that is Clint Eastwood like trying to trick somebody into shooting him in a shield he's wearing underneath the poncho. What Psycho Lion Nezalar is doing is a little different, because he's having Kenta shoot him in his weak point. It genuinely is a weak point, but the problem is that whatever gun thing he had been messing around with earlier, what that did is it linked the bombs that he planted to specific points on his own body. So when Kenta shoots him in this like weak spot above his heart, like Psycho Lion Nezalar is definitely injured, but also a dam explodes.
Yes. Now, of course, Kei doesn't see this happening, right? Kenta doesn't know that, that this is up. And so he blasts him like a few more times and like inadvertently blows up a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, and as he's sort of going in for the kill, and I think the other Rangers have arrived at this point too, Dr. Kubota gets on the phone with them. He's like, hey, you need to stop what you're doing immediately, or you will destroy this entire country. And also sort of the world. And now Psycho Lion Nezare is just like, ha, now you understand. I can't be stopped, because if you shoot me, like, you'll blow up this thing. And like, you'll blow up the earth. And it's just like, okay. Obviously, this is a children's show, etc. But, like, dude, your goal was to blow up the earth. What? Why? Like, I like the plan. It's very interesting. But it's, like, entirely convoluted and totally unnecessary. Because what we just found out is that unless it's like this is why I thought it was a teleport beacon and not a bomb, is because it is using the Ranger's own blasts to blow these things up. If it's just bombs, why wouldn't he just blow the stuff up? Like, why create this like Rube Goldberg machine of a plan to get the Rangers to shoot him so it would then blow up? That I think makes sense. Yeah.
So anyways, so they're like, well, okay, that's a very good point, and I guess we can't shoot you. Maybe it's to try to kill the Rangers first. That would also make sense.
Yeah, but I think that the teleport theory works well, and I think that will actually play out as we go on. I think we can make sense of this.
So anyways, we then find out there's a ray of hope.
Yeah, because we hear from, I think that's Tall Steve and Dr. Kubota.
I believe so. Yep.
Up in space, and they're like, "Hey, so here's the deal. We analyzed the attacks from the when you were shooting him a minute ago and blowing up a dam. Thank you again for that, Kenta. Good job, aces. Absolutely great. We love to see it. You're doing great out there, champ. Thank you for destroying part of the city. They don't say all that, but I feel like they're kind of taking it in their hearts a little bit. They're like, okay, so here's the deal. There is like a 0.026 second delay between when you hit him and the energy transfers to exploding wherever this thing is. But if you can hit him hard enough that it kills him instantly, it will shut down that transfer process and like we will be good to go.
Yeah.
So you've been using Battle Riser for a while. Have we seen him use the 0-3 mode before?
We have not. We have not. We actually have mentioned this like right when Battle Riser showed up, and then I think we've talked about it again. There's always been 3 buttons. He just only ever uses 1 or 2, because that's what Dr. Kubota told him to do.
Yeah. And so like, okay, so if you just use number 3, then that'll kill him instantly, and we can just all go home. So
great. And he's like, cool. So he tries to use it, and it's just like a shot, but it does nothing. And he's like, I don't know what your plan was, guys, but that was bupkis, dude.
Yeah. And Dr. Kubota's like, wait, didn't you... That absolutely should have worked. Wait, didn't you get that upgraded?
Like, didn't you get the disc from Megumi?
Well, he doesn't say the disc. He's like, didn't you get the... Like, didn't Megumi come to visit you? And he was like,
oh, that's right. That's
yes,
what it is.
Megumi did come to visit me. He's like, well, did you get her present? He's like, yes, I ate it. It was good. Like, you ate it? What are you talking about, Kenta? Because, of course, the real gift is a piece of software that was developed in space and brought down to upgrade the Megarangers. But
this is like the worst possible way to have done this. Like, we know they have the internet. We know they have wireless data transfer. Like,
I don't know, man.
Okay. It's like, no, forget all that, guys. Here's what we'll do. We'll send Megumi from the moon to Earth to maybe catch up with Kenta on a subway platform rather than his house or his school or any of the other places that we know he is. Or we also could call Kenta up to the moon on his, like, incredible cyber slider technology and just do it there. No, we're just gonna... No. We'll send Megumi with her picnic basket and a bunch of cookies and the software update in a case and just send her to the subway station.
My guess...
That's the plan.
My guess is that Megumi had shore leave coming up anyway, and she had been the one who'd been developing this software, and she was like, I'm going down to Earth anyway, let me deliver it. It'll be fun.
Okay,
that's
that.
the only version of this that really makes sense to me.
Okay.
And of course, Kenta completely got the wrong idea and thinks that she's helplessly in love with him.
Well, listen, she could be helplessly in love with him and also be here to do the thing. She did make the cookies.
That's true.
So anyways, Megumi at this point has woken up. We see her. She's like, Terminator running towards the battle with the discs. And she's like, we're never going to get there. And Mega Silver shows up. And he's like, I got you. Hop on. And he gives her a ride. And then they arrive at the battle. Mega Silver's like, Mega Red Megumi, you guys dip. I'll step in for you and, kind of buy you a minute to get this handled.
Yeah. They go off. Megumi, like... So the thing about Battle Riser, if you've forgotten, is that it's like this thing that sits on his wrist, right? Like, everybody has the digitizer on their one wrist, but Kenta also has the Battle Riser that sits on his other wrist, like a bracelet thing. So in order to install this stuff, Megumi like takes his hand and like brings it over to her and is like holding his hand and also like plugging a cable into the Battle Riser. But he is I feel like he is so flustered by this girl holding his hand that he is kind of distracted from the fact that she is giving him a software update. She does, though. She's like, okay, cool. You are fully upgraded now. Go use the 0-3 mode and shoot that lion to death, please, before he kills us all.
Yes. And he does. He does. He literally, he atomizes Psycho Lion Nezare. He turns him to dust. BBDB, when he goes down to make him giant, is actually like... He's like, ooh, I'm going to have to, like, suck up the dust and reconstitute Psycho Lion Desiree, like, whole, almost from whole cloth here. But I can do it. And he does.
And then there's a big fight, you know.
Yeah, it's not terribly interesting.
They call in Mega Voyager. Mega Voyager shoots Psycho Lion Nezalar with a simply enormous gun. You know, the one that has a bullet the size of a building. It's pretty good. But the fight itself does not last terribly long. So we cut to the next day, or maybe later that day. I don't know. Kenta is standing around next to a statue of the word love, and he's wearing a red suit, a red tie, and he's waiting for Megumi.
Looks sharp dressed man, dude. Kenta is fly.
It's a pretty good
he is
look.
leaning into this.
And
it's very good.
It's always a delight to actually see him wearing red.
Yes. So the other Rangers show up, and they're like, this, I'm not sure what you think is happening, but it's definitely not this thing. And Shisanto says something. I forget exactly what she says. And Kenta's like, you're jealous. It's like, you're jealous. There's like another girl around, aren't you? And Shisanto's like, what? No. I think it's actually pretty clear that she definitely is at least a tiny bit salty about this.
So Megumi arrives, and like Kenta just sees her like skipping towards them, and he's like, ah, yes, cool, great, loving this. And as she arrives, he's like, you guys get out of here. Hey, Megumi, like, to thank you for all of your help, I'd like to take you out for a date. Where do you want to go? Like, it's on me. This is going to be a great time. You and me on a cool romantic date. Megumi, sort of for the first time being confronted with this, like, straight on, is like, so the thing about that actually is, and then she gets like a Skype call on her like video phone that she has, which is cool. Which is important that it's not just a regular phone, because we get to see the person on the other line, and the person on the other line is Shogo, the chief engineer of Galaxy Mega, and Kenta's sort of good friend / semi-rival.
Yeah. And he says, Meg, what are you still doing on Earth? Like, shouldn't you be back up to base by now? And Kenta says, whoa, Shogo. Once you slow your roll a little bit there, dude, it's a little bit personal, a little bit familiar to be calling her Meg. And Shogo says, well, she is my girlfriend, so it seems reasonable to me.
And Kenta
and then poor Kenta.
Yeah, Kenta kind of like, Kenta reacts the way that I think you could anticipate if you are familiar with the character. He doesn't love this. He's not like mad at anybody, but he's definitely like, he's a little heartbroken. He had let himself sort of, believe that this woman was in love with him, even though she never said that, but he had convinced himself that it was the case, and he's disappointed. It's a bummer for him. It's fine for her and Shogo. They're presumably very happy.
Well, listen, I am also a little bit bummed out for Kenta, but he rallies and he says, you know what, man? I'm gonna eat some yakiniku. I'm gonna forget all about this. And he does he throws his jacket in the air, and then everybody feels a lot better.
And I feel better, Dave. And that's the end of the episode. But of course, it's not the end of our episode, because finally, after like 3 episodes of not having anybody, we have somebody to put on the Creature Royale.
Yes. So, Psycho Lion Nezare. Where does this guy go?
If you have forgotten, because we haven't done it in a few weeks, we have started breaking up the Creature Royale into a season-by-season thing. So we are only going to be judging him against the other Nezare beasts.
Okay. So, I like his vibe. He's got a fun plan. He's no pig Nezare, I will say.
Well, the
For me,
thing
at
is
least.
that, okay, if Pig Desiree didn't have his own theme song about the Diet Crepe, he might be on that same level. But I mean, come on.
He might be, but yeah, Pig Desiree had so much personality. He's got a song, he's got a dance, he's got all that stuff. But right underneath Pig Desiree is Bean Desiree. And Bean Desiree is partly as high as he is. It's a very good plant, but also because he looks amazing.
Yes.
Psycho Lion Desiree also looks incredible.
Yes. And I think his plan is cooler.
Yeah, I agree, because it puts the Rangers in sort of like a moral, maybe not moral, like a strategic quandary in a way that B. Desiree did it. They just had to stop B. Desiree.
B. Desiree was like cool and had brainwashing stuff, but like, I like the fact that there has been sort of a theme of brainwashing monsters in this season. I think that's been very like a cool hook for Shibolena, but it does kind of take away from the impact of each individual one of those. And so Psycho Light and Nezalar really like stands out in a way that B doesn't.
So it's the new spot number 5 right underneath Pig Desiree, Psycho Lion Nezalar.
Welcome to the party. I mean, you've been killed now, so I guess you didn't get to stay at the party, but I hope you enjoyed your stay, Psycho Lion Nezalar. And that is the end of another episode of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, and I hope that you do, please remember that shiny in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. And if you would like to give us a rating or a review on there, well, you can just feel free to do so. We would welcome it, assuming that it's a 5-star review. Otherwise, we would discourage it. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. If you'd like to listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find us all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.